You know what the difference is between you and me? I make this look good.
Men in Black, one of my favorite movies of all time. But many people forget that the inspiration behind the laughs is a long history of horrifying encounters going back hundreds and maybe even thousands of years and from all over the world. Welcome to the In-Between, where we tell stories of the strange and mysterious. And today, we're going to look at just a brief sampling of the crazy Men in Black phenomenon. On the evening of September 4th, 1665, the villagers of Greater Massingham in England were going about their business when they noticed lights dancing in the sky. Dozens of people gathered to look at the lights swooping around and darting here and there over the countryside for over an hour. Now, some people have theorized that what the villagers actually saw was just a series of shooting stars, or even light from the Great Fire of London, which was raging 100 miles south, reflecting off ice crystals within serious cloud formations. The following day, however, 3 strangers appear in the village. They're very pale skinned, which, considering England is known for its constant rain and short summers, maybe that's not that odd. But they're also dressed in black clothing from head to toe. The 3 strangers make for the lone coach inn and start asking questions about what the villagers had seen in the sky the night before. 500 years ago, Massingham barely had 200 people living there, so it was pretty secluded and not particularly welcoming to strangers marching in and aggressively questioning their citizens. Before long, a local man, Giles Berkshire, he's had enough. He slams down his drink, walks over to the strangers, and lets them know they are not welcome. The strangers, showing no emotion, turn to leave, and Berkshire follows them outside and is in the middle of blustering about what'll happen to them if they return when he drops to the ground, struck down by some invisible force that he says felt like the inside of his head was filling up with water. As everybody rushes outside to see what's going on, one of the 3 strangers speaks.
Speak no more of what you have witnessed in the sky yesterday evening.
And with that, they walked out of town toward the woods. The villagers quickly mobilized every available man and went into the woods after the 3 strangers. But it was pointless. The 3 men had vanished. In the 1960s, somebody actually manages to capture rare photographic evidence of a man in black. Timothy Green Beckley was a New York-based writer and ufologist who wrote well over 100 books on UFOs, men in black, and other unexplained phenomena. In 1968, Beckley's friend and fellow ufologist Jim Moseley calls to say that he and his wife have been getting these strange phone calls, sudden dizzy spells, and are being followed around town by people dressed entirely in black. Well, soon after that phone call, Moseley calls again, completely freaked out, telling Beckley that someone has broken into his house and rifled through all of his UFO paperwork. Beckley hatches a plan. Moseley walks around town until he senses he's being tailed, then returns home, but at the last second ducks into his car to hide. Beckley is already hiding in the car, and the 2 don't have to wait long before they see the man in black walk down the sidewalk and duck into a doorway across from the Moseley's house. Both men know this is it. Moseley starts the car as Beckley grabs his camera and at 20 miles an hour leans out the backseat window and snaps a picture of the man dressed in black. By the time they find a place to pull over again and sprint back toward the doorway where the man in black had been standing, the man is gone. Timothy Beckley died in 2021 at the age of 73 and went to his grave believing that he had captured one of the very few images of a man in black. A Japanese UFO blogger, we're going to call him Kenji, releases some really clear photos of a UFO sighting on his website and is amazingly almost immediately bombarded by anonymous comments demanding that he take the photos down. The posters seem to come under different screen names and different IP addresses every time. Kenji refuses to take down the pictures, and he knows that the threats of lawsuits are just bluffs. But he begins to receive even more threats, to the point where he has to close the comment section down. But he thinks that at least that'll be the end of it. But things just get worse. And one night, Kenji decides to take a walk down to the local bar for a quick drink. Now, this bar usually caters to businessmen and college students, but on this particular evening, a rather odd group comes in and sits at the table next to Kenji's. Now, they're taller than your average Japanese man with long, lanky limbs, and they're wearing black suits which just kind of hang off their thin frames. Between the bad suits and their crooked ties, they just look kind of sloppy and kind of messy. And when they sit down, Kenji can see that they are all super pale and don't look entirely Japanese, sort of a mix maybe between Japanese and Middle Eastern. All of them have smooth skin that is almost translucent, to the point where it makes them look kind of sick. The group sits down, orders drinks, and Kenji can hear that they speak Japanese with some kind of accent amongst themselves. But mostly, they just sit there looking really ragged and run down and exhausted. Kenji cannot keep himself from looking over at them. They stick out like a sore thumb. And their movements are really bizarre, jerky, like insects. The group orders their drinks, but they don't drink them. They just sit in total silence. One of them stands up, dips a finger into his drink, pulls it out, and stares at it. Another takes a sip, but wrinkles his face at the taste and doesn't take another drink. One of them fumbles with what looks like a smartphone, but it looks like he doesn't know how to work it, so he just drops it on the table. By now, Kenji notices that other people in the bar are weirded out by their behavior as well. Kenji is feeling more and more uneasy and is just about to leave when the one sitting closest to him turns to him and says,
Calm today.
Odd, considering that it's summer and it was actually a pretty hot day. Kenji just nods and goes along with them. But again, with that strange, unidentifiable accent, the stranger asks him,
What do you do?
Kenji says, I'm a blogger. And the stranger asks what kind of blog, and for better or worse, Kenji tells him unexplained phenomena and UFOs. The stranger replies,
Probably not a lot of money in that.
Kenji ignores him and asks what they do, and the man says,
We're just here on business.
During the whole exchange, the other two look on with blank expressions on their faces, not drinking, not doing much of anything except staring and occasionally fidgeting with their unused chopsticks in their weird insect-like way. Kenji again makes a move to leave, but feels an inexplicable sense of dread from this group of odd strangers. He's not really sure why. They don't look threatening or anything. It's just a feeling that is continually creeping up on him. As Kenji finally gets up to leave, the man says,
You're leaving? Come on, stay for a while. I'll buy you a drink. You don't want to go home and write more of that UFO stuff?
The whole table lets out this unnatural, disturbing chuckle, like laughing with something that they'd only read about in a book. Kenji says they really did not want him to leave, and they repeated that they'll all chat for a while, and they'll buy him some drinks, and the main guy again jokes,
You were only going to write about UFOs at home anyway, so you might as well stay with us and unwind.
They all laugh that stilted laugh. Like they really don't understand what a laugh is. It also sounded to Kenji like a threat. Kenji decides, I am done, gets up and leaves the bar, hoping never to see the businessmen again. September 11th, 1976, Dr. Herbert Hopkins, a doctor and a UFO researcher in Old Orchard Beach, Maine, is home alone when the phone rings. A man identifies himself as a representative of a New Jersey UFO organization that doesn't exist and asks to come over and talk about a case. Herbert invites him over. Keep in mind, this is 1976, so there are no cell phones, only landlines. The minute Herbert hangs up the phone, the man is already on his doorstep. Shocked at how quickly the guy got there, Dr. Hopkins opens the door and is struck by the appearance of the visitor in front of him. This person wearing a black suit is incredibly pale with bright red lips, wrinkle-free skin, and doesn't look like a real human being at all. More like a mannequin. No eyebrows, no eyelids, and no hair on his head or anywhere else. The visitor comes inside, sits down, and starts talking. As Herbert is listening, he can't help but notice that not only does the visitor's body not move while he talks, but his lips and his speech are not synced like a ventriloquist dummy, with no intonation, no emotion, or inflection. The visitor sits perfectly still and tells Dr. Hopkins that he needs to stop his UFO research immediately, or else bad things will happen. He takes his suede glove and wipes it over his bright red lips, and Herbert can see the red smear on the glove. And with the lipstick gone, the visitor has no lips, just a straight, thin line of a mouth. Herbert's opinion as a doctor is that this is not a human being at all, but it also isn't a hologram, it's not a projection, and it's not his imagination. It's real, but what is it? A robot? An extraterrestrial disguised as a human? He has no idea. But it gets weirder. The visitor says to Herbert, "You have 2 coins in your pocket," which was true. "Take one out, please." So Herbert pulls out a penny and he holds it in the palm of his hand. The visitor says, "Watch the coin." As Herbert is watching, the penny goes from a copper color to silver, and then it becomes bluish. It starts getting fuzzy and out of focus. It blurs and blurs, and then it simply vanishes. This is when Dr. Hopkins realizes that whatever it is he's dealing with, it has powers way out of his league, and that just maybe he should do as he's told. The visitor tells Herbert to destroy all of his research on all of his UFO cases. And then, slowing down like he's kind of running low on batteries or something, he says,
"My energy is running low. I must go now. Goodbye."
He slowly and robotically goes out the front door, down the stairs to the street, down the street to the nearest street corner, where he disappears in a streak of light. When I started working on this episode, I was really shocked at the number of stories out there about the infamous Men in Black. So don't be too surprised to see a second Men in Black episode coming pretty soon. If you want to continue with the black and mysterious theme, you can watch these black-eyed kid stories right here. Be careful out there, and we will see you here again on the In-Between.